Billy Joel, the man behind the music, a life in his own words. For over half a century, Billy Joel has let his music speak louder than any press conference, interview, or autobiography ever could. Through more than 120 songs, from the immortal strains of Piano Man to the quick-fire history lesson of We Didn't Start the Fire, he's chronicled heartbreak, redemption, self-doubt, and a lifelong quest for belonging. But speaking openly about the scars and memories that shaped those lyrics? That, until recently, was a line the legendary singer-songwriter rarely dared to cross. Now at 76, Billy Joel finally tells his story, or at least allows it to be told, in Billy Joel, and So It Goes, a new two-part HBO documentary directed by Susan Lacey and Jessica Levin. With a mixture of raw honesty, reluctant vulnerability, and characteristic humor, Joel opens the door to a private world he spent decades protecting. I've resisted this kind of thing for so long. I'm sick of talking about myself, he tells people in an exclusive interview. Some of the stupid stuff I did, that's painful to talk about. But they asked me for some thematic guidance. I said, just tell the truth. And the truth, it turns out, is as intricate and human as the songs that made him a household name. Searching for Vienna. At the heart of Joel's story lies his complicated relationship with his late father, Howard Joel. When Billy was just 8, Howard left the family, moving back to his native Europe and eventually settling in Vienna. The absence of his father became a lifelong shadow, a silence Billy filled with melody and metaphor. One of his most poignant songs, Vienna, is less about a city than about that search for reconciliation, an unspoken dialogue across decades and continents. As Joel candidly reveals in the documentary, it wasn't until he traced his father's path to Austria years later that he truly understood what Vienna represented, the piece of his past he could never quite reclaim. Co-director Susan Lacey pointed out that a lot of the things I was searching for were my father in my life, Joel recalls. And I recognized that in the documentary. I said, you know what? I think that's true. I was looking for my dad. The songs as confessions. Throughout And So It Goes, Joel's lyrics emerge as autobiographical footnotes, signposts marking love affairs, regrets, and the emotional minefields of fame. Big Shot is, by his own admission, a hangover song. I Go to Extremes reflects the volatility of his marriage to supermodel Christy Brinkley. You're My Home immortalizes his devotion to his first wife, Elizabeth Weber. Even Piano Man, though famously inspired by a bar gig in Los Angeles, doubles as a self-portrait. A man who observes, translates, and consoles, but keeps his own secrets behind the piano. I suppose there's a little bit of wariness involved, Joel admits, of turning the microscope inward. When you're talking about your personal life detached from the material, it's almost embarrassing. Yet, in opening up, Joel discovered something unexpected. Revelation. There was some stuff I found out about myself, he says. Lacey remembers Joel's gratitude after filming Wrapped. He actually thanked me for connecting the dots of his life. He said, I now understand why I did what I did. A career built on resilience. Joel's catalog of hits is staggering. Just the Way You Are, Only the Good Die Young, Uptown Girl, and many more, collectively selling over 150 million records and earning 5 Grammy Awards. Yet behind that glittering career lay personal battles with substance abuse, depression, and creative burnout. In 2011, Joel shocked fans by announcing he would step away from performing and the public eye. He lost his will, recalls booking agent Dennis Arfa. He was at a very low point. But in 2014, the music called him back. A historic Madison Square Garden residency, initially planned as an experiment, blossomed into a decade-long phenomenon. It wasn't just about selling out arenas, it was about reconnecting with the communal energy that first drew him to the stage. I'm so grateful for the support we've had from people who come to see us. It's staggering to me, Joel says. A lot of it I don't even understand, but I don't question it. It's a blessing in my life. Family, friends, and forgiveness. For all his fame, Joel's story is ultimately about the people around him. His 3 daughters, Alexa Ray, Della Rose, and Remy, and his wife Alexis, and a tight circle of confidants. Lighting designer Steve Cohen, a friend for decades, describes the Billy behind closed doors. Billy has always been a blue-collar guy, a man of the people. He's always been honest. He's funny, he loves to entertain. I think all of that came through in the documentary. That honesty isn't always flattering. Joel doesn't shy away from admitting his failings, his jerk moments, his regrets, and the times fame magnified his mistakes. You realize sometimes you were wrong or you were mean and didn't mean to be, he reflects. Although I always maintain that the only original thing any of us really does is make mistakes. Yet even in acknowledging these darker chapters, Joel remains determined to keep perspective. At the end, I didn't hate the film, which to me is the real compliment, he says, chuckling. Legacy and letting go. Though Joel hasn't released a new pop album in more than 3 decades, his music remains timeless, and perhaps paradoxically more personal than ever. By inviting viewers behind the curtain, and so it goes reframes songs millions already know, adding the context of a life spent searching for understanding and acceptance. I hope fans walk away realizing how effing human he is, says Cohen. And I hope they come back listening to these songs again with a deeper affection. I hope that you walk away from this thing going, I now justify my fandom. I know why this guy is as good and why I respond to it, because that's the kind of guy I can relate to. For Joel, the documentary isn't a final chapter, but an honest footnote. My goal was to get it over with, he says with trademark bluntness. When I do interviews, people just ask you about yourself and you get a little self-conscious about it eventually. And yet, in reliving the memories, the triumphs and the missteps, Joel found something akin to peace. You show up. You do the best you can. You admit when you're wrong and you let other people tell you how good you are. You don't tell yourself how good you are, he says, echoing a credo that guided both his music and his life. The final note. Billy Joel's music was always the story of a man in conversation with himself, a conversation carried out in melody and metaphor rather than words. But in And So It Goes, he finally lets us listen in, flaws and all. What emerges isn't the untouchable icon of Piano Man lore, but something far more meaningful. A man who made mistakes, who loved deeply, who sometimes stumbled under the weight of his own expectations, and who kept coming back to the piano again and again. At 76, Joel isn't chasing perfection anymore. He's chasing honesty, the same honesty that shaped his songs and now, through this documentary, shapes his legacy. And for fans, old and new alike, that truth rings as clear as any chorus he ever wrote. The music, like the man, endures not because it's flawless but because it's real.